Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It is once again your friendly deputy of Movie Deputy Podcast is bringing to you unique and introspective reviews that truly interrogate movies for their full plot and content. And with this one, we're really going to have fun. Today, we're actually going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. If you've been listening in, we have been covering the Indiana Jones movies in the order that they were theatrically released. Not necessarily the order of the story, which I will kind of get into that as we kind of go forward with these stories. There's a couple of them that are a few out of order. You're just going to have to keep listening in if you want to catch those details and stuff, so I don't leave you hanging any longer. We're going to jump right into this. And the other movies, we talked about the fact that the one started in 1936, the other one started in 1935. This one, we actually get to see a very young Indiana Jones in 1912, and we get to see him as a teenager. And yes, this was even before he was afraid of snakes, and this one actually even answers why he's afraid of snakes. So this one actually kind of goes a little bit deeper into who Henry Jones Jr. really is, which, if you didn't already know, that is actually Indiana's given name. And we actually learn at the end of this one how he got the name Indiana, if you're paying attention to the details, because when that was actually explained, I literally laughed out loud the very first time I ever watched this. I'm like, that's how he got the name Indiana? And it was just, so if you've ever really seen this one and you've missed that, you might want to give it a rewatch, because that's something I'm not going to give away. That's a pretty major spoiler. So not that it's major to the whole story, but it's kind of major to the whole stories as a whole. And I'm so glad that they actually came back and did Last Crusade after the dismal movie that we suffered with last time with Temple of Doom. Last Crusade is definitely redeeming. We did, here at Movie Deputy, we gave the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first movie in the series, a 7 out of 10 on the Deputy scale. We gave Temple of Doom a 4.5 on the Deputy scale. And Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade actually got a 7.25 on the Deputy scale. So this one is actually, I will go ahead and tell you, it is the highest ranking of the 5 Indiana Jones movies on the Deputy scale. And so let's kind of get into it with what they do with the story. In this one, the very first time we see Indy is he is going after the Cross of Coronado. And he finally gets it, and then he has to end up giving it back. And so he ends up searching for it into his adulthood in 1938 and actually comes across it and gets the Cross of Coronado again. And you may be wondering, why is he after this particular cross? But that kind of explains itself a little bit, is after he gets that and he gets home and he gives it to the museum for their antiquities and everything, he realizes that he's gotten this weird package in the mail from Venice. And he's like, okay, wait a minute, I don't know anybody in Venice. Why am I getting a package? So he doesn't really think anything of it, and he goes home and kind of does his thing, and then he realizes he has another package. Well, he opens it up and he's like, oh, it's his dad's diary on the Holy Grail. And okay, you kind of see where this movie is going a little bit. His dad is actually played by the legendary Sean Connery. And so that is just really cool. So you have Harrison Ford and Sean Connery together, father, son. And it really just plays out really well. They're both archaeologists. They're both just after the search. And like I said, they were fighting the Nazis in the first one. Then they were like off in some tribal villages or whatever in Temple. And they're back to like post or World War II-ish type stuff where the Nazis and everything are involved. There's a line by one of the characters that's not by Indy or by his dad, but there's a line that says, I believe in the Grail, not the swastika. So his journey throughout this whole thing is to get to the Grail, but not for the reasons that you might think. And there's a bunch of series of tests to do it that I'm honestly wondering if it was either inspired by Neverending Story or vice versa, because some of the challenges and everything that they have to go through are similar of sort. So even if you've never seen this movie or you're a fan of like Neverending Story and those ones, there's some of the pieces that almost kind of coincide or play off of each other a little bit in different ways, but you'll understand the similarities if you watch it. But so ultimately, somebody close to Indy is put in a life or death situation, and if Indy does not find the Grail, then everything's over. But there's a bunch of humor involved in this too. It's not just as serious as this may seem. This movie is almost a comedy in places, and it makes it just kind of more lighthearted throughout the thing, but then there's some adult jokes that definitely make sure that this got a guilty rating on the Deputy scale, because when Indy's dad is held prisoner over at this castle. He is seduced by this blonde Nazi chick, and her name happens to be Elsa. Not that Elsa, a completely different one. But so he just kind of, that's his romantic interest. And then, of course, when Indy gets there, she's his romantic interest. It just kind of plays off, and you quickly realize that Indy ended up getting sloppy seconds. So that's a joke that you may not get. If you do, like, I can't go into too much detail on that, but let's just say it plays out, and it's just kind of funny, and just, it's like, I'm just really kind of surprised that they went there with that part of the story. But ultimately, like I said, the challenges that he has to go through to get to the actual Grail, and what happens to the Holy Grail at the end. It's like, okay, it's like, do they get it? Is it in some museum somewhere, or is it like they did with the Ark in the first movie, where it's just held on in some secret storage place somewhere, or does something more complex happen to it? It just takes you through a gambit of adventures, and there's like a boat chase, and there's all these different things going on. There is not a boring part of this movie, and so that is just so welcomed, especially after what we sat through with Temple of Doom. This more than redeems itself, and like I said, this is on Movie Deputy, this is the highest ranking of the 5 movies. So even if you've never seen these before you watched Isle of Destiny, which we're going to be talking about in a couple more days as we're doing these in order, but yeah, this is one especially that you need to see. And if you haven't seen it in a long time, watch it again. And if it's your first time, be prepared. It is an interesting part of the anthology. The story would not be the same without this piece. Let's just put it that way. There are some major pieces in here to how the whole story plays out. And I'm actually excited to even talk to you about the next one. The next movie in the series that we're going to be talking about tomorrow is The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So like I said, we're going about these in order. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I thoroughly enjoyed rewatching all these Indiana Jones movies. Like I said on the other one, I grew up with these. I've watched them in the theaters. I've watched them on VHS, on Laserdisc, etc. That really shows my age. And yes, I really am that old. But I love what I do. I eat, sleep, and breathe movies, and I love being able to share things with you guys. So it's maybe a little bit of a different perspective. I think one of the things that I appreciate about these movies is these ones came out in an age before everything was woke. And unfortunately, I can't say that about the last 2 movies in the series. Raiders with Temple of Doom and with Last Crusade, there wasn't all this worrying about political correctness and all this other stuff. It just played out. And if it offended people, it offended people. Too bad. And that's kind of how I am with my reviews. It's like, you don't have to listen to me if you don't want to. If you don't like what I'm talking about, turn it off. I'm not intentionally trying to offend anybody or trying to intentionally just cause a scene or anything like that, but it's hard enough to be myself. I'm not going to try to be anybody else. And so with this, you're getting the nitty gritty. You're getting the true movie deputy on this one and on every other review that I bring to you. So I'm just excited that I get to share these with you. I hope that you like what you're hearing, and if you do, please like and subscribe. Make sure to turn on those notifications so you can get the notifications when new reviews and our other shows goes live. So I am excited about getting into these, and I cannot wait to share the last 2 with you. Please stay tuned, and I will talk to you later. Bye!